Good evening. Welcome back to the Bremner Square Podcast, fresh after yesterday's derby defeat. It's myself and Kieran Archer joining me today. How are you doing, Kieran?
Yeah, I'm fine, obviously. We make the same comment every week, depending on the result. I'm all right despite the result and all that. But to be honest, I didn't find yesterday too heartbreaking in a weird way. So positive in general.
Do you think you were more angry after Everton?
Yeah, for definite. Because the performance just wasn't up to scratch at all there. Whereas there was at least some positive signs in the Man United game.
Yeah, I was thinking that, I think we said really, as long as they go out and show a bit of fight and actually prove that they want to win the game instead of against Everton at Goodison Park, it was a positive performance, wasn't it? I mean, we'll get into it. We are live on Leeds TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I imagine there could be a mix of fans coming into the comments here, potentially Manchester United fans, hopefully Leeds fans who can stick up for us in the comment section. We are live. Do get your thoughts in on yesterday's derby defeat to Manchester United. But, I mean, like you said, Kieran, before we came on, not too unhappy with the result or the performance.
Yeah, I think the big stinger is that we fought us way back into it, got back to 2-2, and then we've gone on to lose. I think obviously it's a really small sample size, 10 minutes, but I thought the opening 10 minutes, I thought were really good. I thought we were a better side for that period. And then just after the 10th minute, I think, is when there's a clash of heads between Scott McTominay and Robin Koch. And, from that moment forward, I mean, even though Koch tried to stay on the pitch initially, you could see that he's lost his way a bit and he wasn't right. And I think that hurt us because Robin Koch has been the only player that stepped into that Calvin role, really, that makes you think, well, that can perform it anywhere near the standard that Calvin Phillips can. And I think from the moment where he was at first not himself and second off, finally off the pitch, I think we kind of lost a little bit of control and we had a really bad spell, start to give the ball away a bit more, invited the pressure onto us. But then the reaction after half-time was excellent, fought us way back into it. We had a couple of decent chances at 2-2. We had another decent chance at 3-2, I think, to equalise straight away. But, ultimately we've lost the game. But the expectations were quite low, I think, going into it. And obviously, the romantic in you wants the win against Man United, but it was always going to be a long shot.
It was. I mean, they spent the most in the league by a bit of a league. I was going to say who that statement is. When you were talking about putting on, it just gave me massive Paddy Kisnorbo vibes from back in the sort of League One, the Championship days, sort of playing with all sort of Berardi, blood streaming down his forehead. It was written in the stars that going to run away with the winner. Other sort of precautions, and he obviously couldn't continue. McTominay was lucky to still be on.
I wouldn't say for that challenge. I think that was fairly innocuous. That one, that was just a clash of heads. Really, he doesn't go in with his head.
In general, really. Yeah.
In general, I think he was lucky to stay on the pitch. I think aside from that, there was probably about 4 challenges that were individual bookable offences, and he's only got 1 yellow card out of them. I thought it was a really mixed performance from referee Paul Tierney. I thought at times he managed the game quite well in those conditions, especially it was going to be difficult, and he kind of let the game flow at times and didn't blow up for everything, tried to play advantage. But there were a few times where there were a couple of decisions that he made really late and the advantage was never really on. So I didn't understand why he was so late to blow his whistle, and just a few other things as well. I've seen him get criticism from some ends, praise from other ends, and I think, to be honest, it wasn't a shocking refereeing performance. His decision to not punish McTominay worse than he did is a little bit of a, it's not a great one because, how many bookable offences can you get away with? But aside from that, I don't think it was terrible. I think there's been worse refereeing performances in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean the nine bookings that we saw on Sunday really showed sort of how fired up all the players were. I think booking Firpo and Rafinha was a bit harsh. I think Firpo's especially won the ball quite clearly. I don't really see how that was as a bookable offence. That we did lose, but I mean, there he is. He's back. Michael Brown's back in the conversation. Said good evening. Said it was a valiant effort in the second half from Leeds, but Manchester United fresh legs and class was telling in the second half. I mean, speaking of fresh legs, I think Bielsa actually got it right. Let's bring it right back. The team selection. I thought he got his substitutions right, bringing on Joffy, bringing on Rafinha, bringing on Firpo, but he got it right by bringing on Rafinha because he didn't start Rafinha. I don't know. Yes, hasn't been in the form of his life recently, but he's so crucial to the side, and we played so much better when he was in the team. I don't know what you made of him not being in the starting 11.
Yeah, I think it's one area where Bielsa's been hammered a bit by fans, opinions on Twitter, that the decision to leave out Rafinha. What I'll say is, I don't think you want to send a message to any player that they're completely undroppable. So Rafinha's come off the back of 2 bad performances. So I don't massively disagree with the decision not to play him. But I will say that there's been other players that have had a couple of similar bad performances this season that haven't found themselves out of the side the next game. So I can see that side of it, especially when we've got such a limited squad. I can see why people would kind of have question marks there. But I think, like I say, once again, it's a small sample size. It's 10 minutes of football. But I think from the way we opened the 10 minutes, playing quite well, I wouldn't have said it's a bad team selection. I think the moment that Robin Koch had to go off, that was a game changer for us, and it caused a bit of a reshuffle. I've seen some few complaints that we didn't make a more direct like change, and instead we've shuffled Ayling to centre back and Dallas from left back to right back. I can understand that. It was quite a complicated way to go about that substitution, but I mean, Joffy and Rafinha coming on at half-time, they did change the momentum of the game. They both came on with a fresh burst of attacking energy. And Rafinha's obviously got the equaliser in the end. So I think being on the bench may have been a wake-up call for Rafinha, and he's come on and made a difference. And I don't think it was a bad decision at all.
Yeah, personal highlight was when Rafinha nutmegged Ronaldo on the goal line. It was, I think we were 2-0 down at that point, and it was trying to find any glimpse of positivity. And I think just watching your likes of Luke Ayling chest the ball and sort of turn away from Ronaldo, and it really got the crowd going. I mean, there's so many different aspects of this game to talk about because it is such a massive game. They'll claim it's not for them, but at least for us, it's Man United at home is our biggest game of the season. And to not have this game being played at Ellen Road in a league game for almost 20 years now, do you feel like the atmosphere, or what you could tell of the atmosphere and the whole occasion, did it live up to the expectations?
Everyone who I've spoken to says it was absolute pandemonium after the equaliser. They said they've never seen anything like it, or haven't seen anything like it for a while. I really wish I could have been there, because it sounds like it did go absolutely mental. I think Ellen Road is a real throwback to a different time in football. There's not many stadiums like it, especially in the Premier League anymore, that's so intimidating, that just, have as brilliant an atmosphere. There is a few. I think sometimes, once again, it has crossed over at times into a place you don't want to see it, but I wouldn't change Ellen Road for the world, really. It's such a unique place in English football nowadays. Like I say, there's not many like it anymore.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep.
So I did manage to get all of what you were saying. It was just a case of not being able to see you as you're saying it. But because it's a podcast, it's an audio, I think that will still come out relatively okay. But I mean, I completely agree with you. I was lucky enough to be there in the wedge, and I tell you what, I got absolutely hammered on Twitter for saying like those 2 minutes were absolutely unbelievable. But they were. Like, I had Kai Sherlock, who runs the Manchester United podcast on Manchester TV. I would say go check it out, but for this occasion, do not go check it out. He's retweeted my tweet where I was like, those 2 minutes were amazing. I don't care. That was great atmosphere, great club. He retweeted it like with the BBC Sport caption. It says Leeds 5 goals in extra time from that atmosphere. Those 2 minutes were amazing. Like, it's a very, very good tweet, and it banged likes, and it did very well. I had a lot of Man United fans in my replies and mentions, and I got hammered for the tweet. But those 2 minutes, were fantastic at Ellen Road. It was you ripped like a bit of someone's shirt. Just those 2 minutes were to old school challenges flying in, and you could tell the players were massively fired up for it, couldn't you?
Yeah, it was great to see. It was. I talk about Ellen Road being a throwback. The game itself was a massive throwback to a different time in football. The pitch got really, really heavy. The ball was holding up. It wasn't really one for slick, nice movement. So I don't think that benefited either team, to be honest. I think both teams would rather the ball moved a bit quicker, a bit easier with the way both teams play. But it was like it just created kind of this old school football match with challengers flying in. The atmosphere just. You know what Ellen Road's like. The cheer a big challenge almost as much as a cheer a goal. So it created this, this bear pit really at Ellen Road, and it was. If I was a neutral, I'd have absolutely no heartbreak from seeing that. It'd have been. I hate to say it, but it's one for the neutrals. It'd have been a fantastic match to watch, and it still was a pretty good match to watch. I just really wish we could have got a result after fighting back and getting back 2 goals.
I think when I went on Twitter after the game, a lot of my friends who are Arsenal fans, Spurs fans, whatever, who are watching the game, sort of said what you said. It was a proper throwback of a game. I think Gary Neville said that in commentary as well. You could tell in the second half the ball was just holding up. Every time a player moved their studs, puddles just flew up from their boot, and it was. I mean, it didn't really help us, like you said. I think the third goal, when Firpo sort of gets the ball stuck under him and then they go on and score, you could argue if it wasn't raining, we wouldn't have conceded that goal. But if it wasn't raining, they probably would have played a bit better football as well. And I think their likes of Ronaldo were quite quiet. I thought they're sort of, he's their sort of star man. But I thought Bruno Fernandes for them was, I think, good, showed his quality. Fred, when he came on, I thought changed the game completely. I think if he was starting, it could have been a completely different game. I thought he was very, very good. But in terms of our players, I thought none of our players, I didn't think, put in a bad performance. I thought Firpo, when he came on, I thought, look, fresh legs against a Sancho, Ronaldo, Fernandes, with what he's done in the past against like Mo Salah, is a bit worrying. I thought he stepped up to the plate massively, intercepted the ball really well and drove us forward. I thought Click, yes, probably Forshaw, Dallas again, very consistent. We can take positives from this, can't we, going into the Liverpool game?
Yeah, there are positives there. I thought for the majority of the performance was nowhere near as bad as Everton. I did say we had a spell, I think, before we'd fully adapted to not having Robin Koch in the side. We had a spell where we were quite sloppy, giving the ball away a lot. But once we had kind of adapted, especially in the second half, had that spell at half time to get things under control, give the lads a talking to. I think for the majority of the game, we were reasonable, we were decent, and I think if we play against Everton with that level of performance, we don't lose 3-0 for certain. So there's some positives in individual performances as well. I think Stuart Dallas just rock solid as ever, Mr. Consistent and a real workhorse as well. Looking at Rafinha off the bench, came on and made a difference. And that's the best performance we've seen from him in a long time. I think Dan James got at him. He was direct. He ran at him, and I think Scott McTominay, a mixture of Scott McTominay, when he was up against Luke Shaw on that side as well in the first half, I think they dealt with him quite well, but he still gave them a lot to think about, and he ends up assisting Rafinha's goal. So there's a few positives in there. I think there's a couple of players that I do think could have dealt with certain situations better. I think Llorente's marking of Harry Maguire from the corner for the opener, I don't think that's of the Premier League starting.
It's not great, is it?
No. I'm a bit frustrated, I'd say, with Diego Llorente at times this season, because last season he came on and, well, when he came back from injury, and he completely changed his defence. He led from us struggling to keep clean sheets, leaking a lot of goals, and then we became one of the best defences in the league over the second half of the season. But we've gone back to what we were at the start of last season defensively. We get absolutely hammered for it by the press, by the pundits, and he's been in there pretty much all this season, and I don't think he's looked anywhere near the level he looked towards the end of last season. So it's a real shame to see, because I do think he's got a lot of quality, especially as a ball playing centre back. I just wish he'd get the defensive side sorted out in the same way he did in the back half of last season.
It would help, because he's a defender, isn't he? It would probably help the side if he could stop those goals. Like the Michael Keane header, Harry Maguire header, they're both so poor defensively, and I couldn't really see it when I was in the ground. But watching back the highlights, he's acres of room. I thought Meslier, if he's actually on his line, maybe could save it as well. I don't know. It's just those moments of I get. Look, if teams didn't make mistakes, there wouldn't be goals in football. But we made so many on Sunday. The third goal, no one tracks Fred's little overlap on the left-hand side. There's Click, Stroik, and I think Dallas as well. None of them go to him. And it's those sorts of things where if you can eradicate them, yes, we'd probably be a champions, we'd be champions of the Premier League. But, that's why mistakes are in the team. It's just frustrating. Do you think if we had a Phillips or a Cooper in that team, not Bamford, but a Phillips or a Cooper, we could get something out of that?
Yeah, for definite. I think a fully fit Phillips, then you don't need to play Robin Koch in that role. If he's in centre back and he doesn't clash heads with McTominay, then that really solidifies the defence. I think in an ideal world at the moment, we'd have Calvin Phillips in that role where he belongs, and I'd have Robin Koch in at centre back alongside either Cooper or Strauch as your left-footed centre back, because I do think, just like I think maybe Rafinha needed that wake-up call of dropping out the team, I think maybe Llorente needs the same thing. And I hate to kind of dig out a player like this and never really going on an individual, but what it is for me, it's really frustrating that he was so fantastic last season. He looks like he could be a top quality Premier League centre back. He looked like he could play in the sides fighting for the Champions League. He was genuinely that good. So it's been frustrating to see a big drop off, and I still think the talent's there. I just think maybe he needs to get his head together, and maybe a bit of a spell out the side as a wake up call, and just come back fresh and fighting.
Yeah, definitely a wake up call. I mean, do you think the being taken off at half time would be enough of a wake up call?
Yeah, but that's one of those. It's difficult to shift your defence at half time, isn't it? Especially with Koch, one of his options. You could have maybe dropped him back at centre back and shuffled about somewhere, but he was already off the pitch with the head injury. So I think it'd be a difficult one. It'd be more difficult to bring a centre back off at half time for us at the moment than bring a winger off or a winger off for definite. I think that's the one place at the moment where we seem to have options at the moment. We've got James, Harrison, Rafinha. So yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to reshuffle your defence midway through a game.
It is. I think Ayling at centre back doesn't always work either. Tell you what, I did see at centre back though, Pascal Stroik, when his hair came out, really reminiscent of Luke Ayling as well against Huddersfield. His hair came out, I think it was might have actually been before the third goal, and he was trying to do it up, bless him, sort of while trying to defend against Ronaldo and Fernandes, and I don't know, seeing that mane come out. One of the positives of Sunday's game, alongside the atmosphere, alongside that minute of madness, but it's a 4-2 defeat. We park that and we move on to a slightly easier game at Anfield on Wednesday night. The easy games just keep coming thick and fast, don't they, Kieran? How are you feeling for this one?
I mean, Liverpool have been buoyed, haven't they, by that Manchester City defeat to Spurs, who we'll get onto later as well. They're very much back in the title race. 6 points back with City still to play. They need a bit of a goal difference swing, I think, as well. I'm not sure actually on that one, but it's you'd still say City are the favourites for the title, but you'd say there's a title to fight for now. A 6-point gap can be overturned, and so that means we'll be facing a very determined Liverpool team, as I'm sure they always are. A Liverpool team that's just packed with unbelievable talent, especially that front three. The Diaz lad that they've brought in, he looks a talent, to be fair, and bringing him in alongside Mane and Salah, not to mention the other options they've got, such as Diogo Jota. It's going to be difficult, I think, but I'd never count us out, because it's one of those. We took Liverpool all the way at Anfield last season. I think we got a point out of them at Elland Road last season. So we have competed with Liverpool in the past. It's just, once again, it's whether the right Leeds United turns up. As injury situation makes that more difficult, you'd feel a lot more confident if we're facing them with Bamford, with Phillips. But I'm not going to write us off. I'm not going to write us off before the game. Obviously, Liverpool are the heavy favourites, but we've still got it in us to spring a surprise every now and then.
Yeah, I may have gone a different way to you. I haven't written us off, but I put down in my notes before the podcast, announced the 5-0 defeat already. And Norwich at the weekend gave us all a bit of a scare by taking the lead, and we needed Liverpool to do us a bit of a favour by beating them, which they did in the end, a 3-1 win. But Norwich, by the looks of it, did get at Liverpool quite a bit, scored the goal, had another couple of good chances. And yes, as much as Liverpool battered them in the same sense, they are there for the taking. I know they rested Alexander-Arnold and Robertson in the game on Saturday. They played Norwich. I don't know if that's an injury thing, or I know Robertson was on the bench. Alexander-Arnold wasn't. He's my captain in my fantasy team this week, so I didn't thank Jurgen Klopp at all if he was just rested. They do have the Carabao Cup final on the Sunday. Do you think they'll have one eye on that?
I think with the title to fight for, though, which the title race is back on, I think obviously they want to go on Sunday and win that piece of silverware. When you're in a final, you always want to win it. But I also think we've got the strength in depth to be able to deal with both games. I think we've got an easier situation than us, which I think is playing on the Wednesday than playing on the Saturday again.
Yes, yeah.
So I'd still expect a strong Liverpool side to be put out. There might be little bits of rotations here and there, but I think if Robertson's rotated for Tsimikas is, I rate him quite highly as well. If Jordan Henderson's rotated for James Milner, well, I'm James Milner's biggest fan on this planet, so it's not, even if they do rotate a little bit, they are still quite clearly the favourites, and they'll still have a team absolutely jam-packed with quality, with title race contending quality, no doubt.
Surely Milner wouldn't want to beat us. Surely not.
Well, I've thought that in the past when he's played against us. I think I remember an FA Cup game against Man City years ago now, where they absolutely hammered us. So, I think it'd hurt him a little bit, especially imagine Milner scoring against Leeds. I'm not sure he ever has done since leaving Leeds. He hasn't played against us very often anyway. No. That'd be a heartbreak for me, seeing James Milner score.
See, I feel like you personally as well would take that very, very, very hard to take.
Yeah, I always thought I'd see him back in Leeds colours one day, and I don't think I will now. I think that ship sailed, but I certainly never thought I'd see him scoring against Leeds. I thought he might have been scoring for Leeds by now. A few years back, I thought he was going to end his career here.
Maybe as a manager.
I think he's got
Liverpool,
got the personality to be a manager. Definitely. He does seem like the type to go into management after his playing career's ended, although I think the way it seems at the moment, he doesn't want his playing career to end. He'll still be turning out when he's 40 at this rate.
Yeah, he's a good lad, James Milner, very good lad. I mean, Michael's providing us with a lot of positivity, not writing us off at all, saying that we got the second worst goal record in the Premier League. Only Norwich have a worse goals against record. There's no hiding that our defence isn't really there at the moment, this season even. I think if we can go out there and, like you said, in the game against Liverpool, last season at Anfield, it was a case of who can score more, as every football match is. Fantastic analysis there, but it did seem like a case of just literally no defense, just vibes kind of thing. I don't know. It was a fantastic game to be back in. Yeah, out the potential starting lineup for this game. Let me try and find this. He said he would play Llorente midfield, Cock alongside Pascal, both physical defenders, and play better in the air. What are you thinking lineup to go at Anfield on Wednesday? Because I'm thinking similar to what United game, but I'm not sure about yourself.
Yeah, I'd say the team that started against Man United, providing I think if it is a concussion or something like that with Robin Koch, then those tend to be a rest it off kind of thing, and they're usually fit and free to go ahead and play within a few days. So I'd probably leave it unchanged. Maybe my one change might be bring Rafinha in. I'm not 100% sure who for actually. I'd maybe give Rodrigo leading the line another chance. So that would probably mean a like-for-like change with one of the wingers, but I'm not 100% sure who you take out between Harrison and James. But I mean, I have had this thought, like Michael has, of maybe try Llorente in midfield because his ball playing ability is fantastic. It's one of his stronger assets at times, but at the same time, I think Koch's a bit more of a physical unit, and when that's the only protection of your defence at times, especially in this Leeds United team, I think a physical unit kind of goes really well in there, and I think it's not really been on Bielsa's mind to play Llorente in midfield and try that out. It's been, if it's not Koch, it tends to be Pascal Struijk who goes a bit further forward. I think we did play Struijk in midfield for a short period of time immediately after Koch went off, but then reshuffled again when that wasn't really working. So as much as I do think it might be a worthwhile experiment, I really don't see Bielsa going with it. So I'd say I'd probably like to see what unchanged.
It's not like we sort of come up with these pipe dreams of lineups, but it won't happen. It's not going to happen. But it would be nice if this were to happen. Do you know what? I wasn't too sure about it when I saw Michael comment it, but now you've sort of been able to voice his opinions. I see what you mean now. I see what you mean. His ball playing abilities are sort of seemingly at the moment much better than his defensive ones. And Rodrigo, after his stunning goal against Manchester United, could give him another go up top. I think last couple of games, maybe a bit before that as well, he certainly improved and shown why. Well, I said, maybe not the £30 million we spent on him, but showing why he does have that touch of quality that we wanted to see from him a couple of summers ago. Do you think there's there's always been a bit of a rivalry between Leeds and Liverpool, two huge clubs, fantastic games down the years, the Viduka 4-3 at Ellen Road, obviously the standout for Leeds fans, but after the whole Jurgen Klopp at Ellen Road in the summer, in September with the Harvey Elliott situation, running onto the pitch, hasn't done too well with football fans in general, moaning about the breaks in between games and how much Liverpool are playing recently. Do you think there's a bit more of a spice to it due to the game in September?
I mean, there shouldn't really be spice to it out of that Harvey Elliott, Pascal Struijk situation, because those two are good mates now, apparently.
They are, yeah.
Really well. But I don't know. I still feel like, as much as Harvey Elliott said, the tackle on me wasn't even a foul, never mind a red card, that never really got through or flew with the Liverpool fans. You still see them comment every now and then about that challenge, and a lot of opinions on it from that side don't seem to have changed. I think a lot of Leeds fans took the way Jurgen Klopp acted at Elland Road, where he ran on the pitch to interfere with the referee's decision after it looked like the referee was initially going to play on. I think that rubbed a lot of Leeds fans up the wrong way. But in general, I'm finding it difficult to form this rivalry with Liverpool, because when we were out of the Premier League and I had to sit back and watch Man United win it and Chelsea win it, I was always just wanting to see Liverpool win it one year. I always saw them as lesser of the evils. I was always Gerrard above Lampard, and it's maybe at one point there was a little bit of a soft spot for Liverpool just because I preferred them to the other teams fighting for the Premier League title. But they used up, obviously, when Leeds and Liverpool were competing for the same honours, was a rivalry developed in the past. And certainly a competitive rivalry in the early 2000s, with that Viduka game being the highlight on our side. But I think it's one of those where no matter how long we spend out of the Premier League, the rivalry with Man United has never really fallen on our side.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fallen on their side a lot, especially with the older Man United fans. They still absolutely hate Leeds. But I do think probably for the most part, Leeds and Liverpool's opinions on each other have probably softened a fair bit.
I know what you mean with the sort of wanting them to do well, because Man United, Chelsea, Leeds is sort of fiercest rivals. You don't want them winning the Premier League. So it was kind of them and, Arsenal were never close to winning the Premier League sort of in the 2010 sort of decade. But they were the sort of clubs, your Liverpools, your Arsenals, you were a bit more fond of. And I think the fact that they won the Premier League at the same time that we won the Championship and got promotion, it was their first Premier League. We were back in the Premier League. It was all sort of similar kind of clubs. So when we played each other first game of the season of last season, it was all quite fitting and it seemed quite nice. Klopp was very respectful for how we play, sort of blown away as to how good we were as a new team coming up into the Premier League. And I don't think there's nothing on the scale of the rivalry with the Man United game, not really touching Chelsea, but just two sort of big clubs going at it at Anfield on Wednesday. And I don't think that's being streamed anywhere on TV. I don't think that's getting anywhere. So it could be a different website kind of job for that one. I'm not sure. Or keeping up on radio or Twitter commentary as well. I think I had a look on my trusted FotMob app, not sponsored or anything. I think they've got Jota and Firmino both out, which means like it'll be a front three of Salah, Mane, and Diaz as well. They do have that sort of rotation midfield where they can play a Milner, Henderson, Elliott, or Thiago, Fabinho as well. They are stacked with quality. And I don't know if you've seen in the WhatsApp chat, Kieran, that when David, who's our sort of boss, who's our Liverpool fan, was saying he's not too worried about the game on Wednesday. Are we going to be able to prove him wrong, prove everyone else wrong, and collect something from Anfield on Wednesday?
Instinct is no, but once again, I don't want to write us off completely. Like I said before, if the right Leeds United turns up, we can give them a game. So if I had to predict it, I'm obviously predicting a Liverpool win. But I'm not going to go that heavy. I'm going to go maybe 3-1.
Oh, it's all right. We'll take that. It's a loss. I'm not exactly going to take it. I'll go. I was thinking draw. I was thinking 0-0. There's no way this game ends up 0-0. 2-2. 2-2 draw. Take a point away from Anfield going into the Spurs game, which is 12:30 on the Saturday. The BT Sport early kickoff. Your weekend starts here. Jake Humphrey, Rio Ferdinand, Joe Cole will probably all be going to Ellen Road for this one. Last season, we can't talk about team news because the whole squad could get injured at Anfield and we wouldn't know at this point looking ahead to the Spurs game. But last season at Ellen Road, a time when Spurs weren't doing too well, when it was one of Ryan Mason's first games in charge, and it was a comfortable 3-1 win for us, wasn't it?
It was a very comfortable win. We had a lot of very good performances last season. You think the Leicester game when they were flying high, and the Man City game. But that was another standout performance of last season. We were clearly the better side against the Spurs team that, they were in a bit of a turmoil at the time, but even in turmoil, they've still got Harry Kane, they've still got Heung-min Son. At that point, they still had Gareth Bale. It's still absolutely packed with talent. Obviously, we're playing a different Spurs at the weekend. We're playing a Spurs managed by Antonio Conte. He's a different level, really, to Ryan Mason in management, isn't it? That's no disrespect to Ryan Mason at all. And Kane's back scoring. He scored for the first time in 4 games, I think it was, against Manchester City. But then he went on and got another against top of the league. So if Leeds had a different prospect to Man City, and I'm sure Kane will be rubbing his hands together. Heung-min Son is just a wonderful player, creative, but also, got a killer instinct himself, and a hard worker as well. I just think he is one of my favourite players in the Premier League. The way he goes about it, the quality that he's got. So yeah, a couple of games ago, Spurs were there for the taking, but had a couple of bad results. But now we've just come off that confidence boosting win against Manchester City, and we're facing a completely different prospect altogether.
A little bit more of a positive run going into our game. They've got Burnley away on Wednesday night, same night we play Liverpool. So that's on the Saturday. Still got down south. Game, obviously, we don't really know what sort of but on the balance, the performance some fans weren't expecting to see. Good, weren't they?
I lost you for long periods of time there, Johnny. Can you just repeat the question?
Wi-Fi is having an absolute nightmare today. I was saying, obviously, I think what you just sort of covered there at Burnley in midweek, going up south, north, we need us a bit of a favour. But they'll be, really confident going into the game after their win at the Etihad on Saturday.
Are you there, Johnny?
Is anyone watching at the moment?
I think I might have you back now. I heard that.
Are we back now?
Yeah.
Are we back now?
We are back now, yeah.
Okay, let's just give us a score prediction for the game against Spurs. We can't really look ahead to it in detail too much. The Wi-Fi is playing up. It wants us just to call it curtains.
It's completely fine now, but I will. Can I just touch on one thing you did say with? I noticed that you were talking about the Wednesday Saturday turnover with Burnley. I think if the last week was anything to go by, but we struggle with the Wednesday Saturday turnover quite badly, or we did struggle with the Wednesday Saturday turnover. I think Spurs might be better equipped to deal with that. That short turnaround. So, it's another worrying sign for us. Playing Wednesday, playing Saturday. But I want us to pick up a result against Spurs. I think even with that confidence boosting win against Man City, I think they're more for the taking than Liverpool are. I'm just keen to see points on the board. So I'm gonna predict a 0 point. I'm going to give us a 2-2 draw.
I like it. I like the positive. I'm going to go another draw as well, which means we'd have collected a point out of, from my prediction, a point from Anfield, point at Ellen Road, 2 points out of those games would do me fantastically. And we can just hope that other teams down the bottom as well just, don't pick up points. And I was saying with my dad on the phone earlier, and I think after Saturday's game, we'll do sort of a look ahead to where these results land us in the table. But other teams are still going to be playing the big boys as well. They've still got their Chelseas, Liverpool, Cities, Man Uniteds to come as well. And it's not just us who is going in this sort of run of form. After these games, we can sort of look ahead to getting out of the situation we're in. We're only 3 points off Crystal Palace still, and we've got a game in hand, obviously. It's a trip to Anfield, so it doesn't really count as a game in hand. But there is one game in hand on them. I'll say again, keep your eye on Brentford, because I think they're in a more comfortable position than the table actually shows, or they're in a less comfortable position than the table actually shows. But we'll have a look into sort of where the next couple of games leaves Leeds, and hopefully is looking up rather than looking down. But thank you very much to everyone who tuned in. Thank you very much to Michael as well, contributing a lot in the comment section. I was trying to bring him up in the comments. Asking if I'm all right. Cheers, Michael. My Wi-Fi connection is still looking very ropey at the moment, but good to see he showed his cause for concern. Thank you very much to Kieran for coming on as usual. I'm going to try and end this broadcast. I tried to do it about 5 minutes ago when the Wi-Fi wasn't working, and it didn't actually let me, so we could be staying live. But thank you very much for everyone watching.